Hello, today we're going into Proverbs 24, continuing just to apply the daily life principles of Proverbs. So much good information here, ways to build both character, relationships, finances, just how to be a good person, how to maintain your health. There's all kinds of great stuff in here. So let's look at verse 1. He says, don't envy evil people. In other words, put your focus on those that are right. Follow those that are good and correct and upright. Don't envy them, or despise or desire their company. So separate yourself. He's talking about a good way to live. For their hearts plot violence, and their words always stir up trouble. Don't you know those people that are around that are always troublemakers? They're always trying to stir the pot. It's good to stay away from that type of person. Now, verse 3 is pretty powerful. It says, a house is built by wisdom and becomes strong through good sense. So a house is built, a strong house or a house that will remain. It's built through wisdom, built through good. It's strong because of good sense. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. You can think about our life as a house, our body as a house, and we're built through wisdom. We get stronger through good sense, and through knowledge, the rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. Not just material things. We're talking about qualities of life. Now, verse 5, he says, the wise are mightier than the strong, and those with knowledge get stronger and stronger. It's better to have wisdom than strength, because strength without wisdom is going to bring destruction. Here in verse 6, he says, so don't go to war without wise guidance. Victory depends on how many advisors. Do you have enough insight to recognize where the problems are and put together good tactics? Verse 7, wisdom is too lofty for fools. Among leaders of the city gate, they have nothing to say. A person who plans evil will get a reputation as a troublemaker. And the schemes of a fool are sinful. Even everyone detests a mocker. Now, verse 10, I think, is something that really stands out to me. It says, if you fail under pressure, your strength is small. It's not condemning the person who fails. He's just saying recognize that it's because your strength was small. You weren't ready for that task. But God gives us, through His Word, through the power of His Holy Spirit, through understanding His plans and purposes for our life, we're gonna learn how to be strong enough for every challenge, for every battle, for every hill we have to climb or mountain we have to remove. Everything that's before us, God gives us the ability to overcome or to withstand until it is removed. And so the strength, not caving under pressure, it means we become strengthened in God. So it's important to recognize that and remember that. One of the verses in here that I love is verse 16. The godly may trip 7 times, but they get up again. Now, we'd say that, or I've said that a lot of times. I heard it said, fall down 7, get up 8. The important thing is that you keep getting up. The important thing is not how many times you sin, but it's that you keep running to God in repentance. It's not that you try and attempt something and fail, but it's that you continue to try again. You continue to keep getting up. The godly may trip 7 times, read that again, but they will get up again. But the one disaster is enough to overthrow, the wicked. Now think about that. He's saying the wicked are not going to have the strength to rise again. They're going to fail. They're going to eventually fall. But the godly person, the one who's putting their trust in God, their faith in God, they're going to continue to keep getting up. I want us to get over here into verse 26, just in the overview of this Proverbs chapter 24. Verse 26 says this, and an honest answer is like a kiss of friendship. In other words, to your friends, be honest. Help them out with truth in love. Let them know the things they need to know in order to get better, in order to be improved, but do it from a position of love. But it is like a kiss of friendship. Well, verse 27, he says, don't do your planning and prepare your field before building your house. So he's saying, keep your priorities in order. Make sure the thing that's going to produce and take care of you, and you take care of that first. Building the house is going to cost you expenses, and then once you get it done, it can't make more money, but your field is what's going to continue to produce. So take care of the things that are producing in your life, and the things that are more a consumer type thing or consuming, he said, put them at the back burner, make them less of a priority, and then you can take care of your house building or those things, those consumer things, when you've got the production coming in from the things that are going to produce. He says in verse 28, don't testify against your neighbor without cause, and don't lie about them. So he said, boy, God hates a liar. He is very, says a lot about the person who lies. And so he says, don't lie about your neighbor, and don't testify against them without cause. In other words, without being a truthful, beneficial thing. But verse 29 says, and don't say, now I can pay them back for what they've done to me. I'll get even with them. In other words, when the opportunity comes to speak against your neighbor, especially one who's done you wrong, a person who's done you wrong, he says, don't take that opportunity. Pass on that opportunity. Don't be the person, I'm going to get them back for what they've done to me. The world's idea is do unto others before they do unto you, or do unto others as they've done to you. But God's way, Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat them the way you want to be treated. It's a whole different line of thinking. He says, I walked by the field of a lazy person. So he shifts gears here. And now he talks about work ethic and putting the time into things that need to have time put into them. He says, I walked by the field of a lazy person and a vineyard of one who had no common sense. Again, he's tying work ethic to common sense, taking care of things, managing your stuff, take care of whatever it is you have. He says, I saw that it was overgrown with nettles, and it was covered with weeds, and its walls were broken down. He said nobody had been caring for it. It was not taken care of. Now listen, you may not have a field, you may not have fences, you may not have all these things, but if you, whatever you do have, I believe he's saying, be a good steward. Take care of it. Don't be lazy and not take care of the things that you've been given or the things that you have as a possession. Take care of those things. He goes on, he says, verse 32, and I'm in Proverbs chapter 24. He says, then as I looked and I thought about it, I learned this lesson. Well, when we see what others do, we ought to take note. I remember when Sue and I were first dating and talking about kids, and then as we got married and eventually we waited about 4 years to have kids, and we were just kids ourselves when we got married. But what we began to do was we agreed on how we were gonna raise our kids. Very, very important thing. You need to understand, or you need to agree on and settle how you're going to discipline, how you're going to raise your kids, children, how many you're going to have, all that stuff. Get that all settled up front, among other things. But that is a biggie. But what we would do is we would watch, and we'd see parents that were doing it right, and we'd take notes, and we'd say, "Did you see that? Did you see how they handled that? Let's remember that." And we would note somebody else who, we were like, I don't want that kid, don't want that response. I don't want it to be like that. Let's guard against that. And so we got into to analyzing and checking, not in judgment, but in evaluating, so we could apply it to our lives. We ought to do that also where money's concerned. This is one of the most valuable things about connecting with different generations. And one of the values of having a church body and friendships and small groups and that sort of thing, so that you get to know people. And some of the most valuable things that Sue and I had growing up or as we were growing up together as kids after being married just right out of high school. And I'm assuming you understand, I mean a 19-year-old being a kid still, but young adult. But as we began to grow together and experience things, one of the things that helped us, we both came from good parents. We were blessed with good family examples. But we also, God put men and women in our lives, married couples that were 25 years ahead of us. Men that could speak into my life, women that could speak into Sue's life. They talked about how they raised their kids, how they remained married, what values, what things were important. We saw that modeled in front of us. That was one of the values in multi-generational in an environment where you can glean from others. You may not have the perfect family example. You may not have a good example anywhere around you. So finding somebody that can help model a healthy relationship is really good. That's just one area. What about, financially or maybe in working and that sort of thing. So all these are talking about practical things. What he said is in that verse 25, he says, "Then I looked and I thought about it and I learned this lesson." He saw this person who wasn't taking care of their stuff. He saw it in disrepair. In verse 33, he said, "A little extra sleep." This is what he learned. He said, "A little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little more folding of the hands to rest. Then poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber." In other words, you won't have to be actually robbed. Your laziness or your lack of stewardship is going to catch up to you. Poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. You'll wonder where it all went. You'll wonder what went wrong. I watch people at times, and again, not being critical, but just not taking care of things, not valuing things, not making things last. One of the sad things in this world today is, we were talking about this at the men's Bible study Tuesday. It came up and talking about patching jeans or patching clothes. Nobody really does that anymore. Man, I grew up, I had patched up jeans, my work jeans. I mean, we worked on the farm and on the ranch, and we would get them nasty and dirty, and we would wear holes in them. They didn't rip the holes in them. Many of you know what I'm talking about. These people that pay these big bucks for these ripped out jeans, these wholly worn out jeans, and they had to be put in a machine and it rubbed off. Well, they didn't have to be putting it in there for mine. Where my keys or my pocket knife were in my pocket, or where my snuff can was in my pocket, or my billfold, they'd always get rubbed off. Sometimes you'd snag them and get a tear or something. And we'd patch them, we'd preserve them, we'd make them last. I remember wearing boots with duct tape on them because I didn't have time to get to town to get a new pair or get them resold. But we'd make those things last. We tried to stretch it. And the world we live in today is such a throwaway mentality. You don't fix stuff anymore. You just buy it when it gets old. You throw it away and buy a new one. And it's sad that it's like that today. There's a few things that are still out there that you fix and repair and you keep and you maintain. But what about the special things in our lives? What about our relationship? What about our management of our time? And I think you could relate this to a lot of things. Doesn't mean that it's bad to take a nap. It doesn't mean that it's bad to sleep in once in a while. But is your life representative of that? Is it that you're always putting off what needs to be done? And I think that's what I see in that. But that could go in a lot of different directions. It doesn't just mean in your property. It could also mean in other areas of life. And so just ask yourself, again, not judgment, but just taking this and saying, God, I want to be better. Are there areas that I'm slacking in? Am I wasting too much time doing something that is totally non-productive instead of taking the time to take care of and clean the house or fix the fence or mow the yard or spray the weeds or do whatever else it might be. I don't expect that everybody has to wear patched jeans nowadays, but the thought and the idea behind that is something important. I look back over some of my videos from, that brown hat that I just got rid of was 14 years old, and it was still, it could still be worn. It's not totally shot, but it probably needed to be replaced. But it's because of course, I wore it for a good hat for probably first 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then I made it into a work hat. It didn't last long as a work hat because I was wearing it every day, but it lasted longer than it would have had I just thrown it across the room, tossed it in the back seat, left it laying flat. You know, it wouldn't have held its shape. All those things that are just little things of how we take care of things. Well, listen, just apply that to your life. Don't get in condemnation. Don't beat yourself up, but fix the things you can fix. Turn the ship to a place that doesn't lead to a place of poverty pouncing like a bandit or scarcity attacking like an armed robber. You'll walk in the blessing of the Lord when you do things God's way. So be encouraged today. Take this word, apply it, walk in the blessing of the Lord, and then you'll have to bless others, to do more for others. Hey, man, go out, be a